What's up, everyone? Welcome to another special episode of Hitting the Apex. Vish, of course, joined by my man Evan here. Evan, how's it going, man?
What's going on, everybody? How we doing this evening?
Well, it was. We can get into it. Interesting race this weekend. It was. I mean, we're calling it the 24 hours. It was 23 hours, 58 minutes, and 30 seconds. Apparently,
30 seconds.
It came up a little short of the 24 hours. Which,
yeah.
Wave the checkered flag early, but we'll get it. I don't think it really impacted the results, but still, when you advertise 24 hours, you can't end the race early.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the lead was so far ahead with that Penske Porsche. I mean, there wasn't anything that the Wayland Cadillac could have done about it. But either way, that ending was still controversial. Let's say, so I guess it's 2 years running where we have a controversial ending in the 24 hours.
Yeah, this one probably a little bit less so. But yeah, no, it is. They couldn't get the 24 hours right. That was the thing that happened. But I guess let's take it from for everyone watching. We're gonna go series. So actually, for those of you that are new to the program, we Evan and I and Jazz Santana, we cover F1 for 5 Reasons Sports, hence the F1 5 Reasons handle. But Evan's a big car racing enthusiast in general, and specifically really into sports car racing. So we're going to do some of these special shows on big events. 24 Hours of Daytona is certainly one of those, and also over the summer, Le Mans, and maybe some other stuff. Maybe we'll do an Indy 500 or something. There's all sorts of stuff we can dig into.
That'd be fun.
But Evan's fan club always shows up. And so let's get into it. Let's start. You kind of mentioned that the Penske car kind of after the last caution kind of opened the lead up, and there was no, made the pass in the pits, and then that was kind of that. But let me share the standings here, and love to get your take on. We're going to go through the different series. So the GTP is obviously as Evan kind of gave us a great rundown last week. If you're unfamiliar with sports car racing, kind of how the different classes work, definitely check out last week's episode. Evan gave us a deep dive and a crash course into it for novices like myself. To kind of definitely helped understand the race as you're watching it. But yeah, so there's your final results, and I guess I will cede the floor to you, man.
Yeah, so I mean, the Wayland Cadillac was the one that I had predicted was going to have a great race, and he ended up only 2 seconds behind the Penske Porsche with Matt Campbell and Felipe Nasr and Joseph Newgarden, all big names in racing in general. And that Penske Porsche just got himself in the right position right at the very end. There was a yellow, there was a caution that led to some pit stops, and they took advantage of it. And really, that final hour and a half, whatever it was, they ran a great race and really put themselves into that position to be able to win the race. But you look at the top 4 guys here, we're talking 15 seconds difference between the guy in first place and the guy in fourth place. It was a close race throughout the entire 24 hours, with those top guys. And realistically, that's what you want to see in these types of races. You don't want to see that one team just blow ahead of everybody and there not be any passing and not be any racing during the entire thing, and sometimes it happens like that. But this race was fantastic from start to finish. There was battles all the way throughout the field, in GTP, in GT, in LMP2, and we'll go over those series, in a minute. But specifically with GTP, it was one of the better races that we've seen in this class so far. Everybody seemed competitive. None of the cars seemed to be really out of it, until closer to the end. I mean, these races are judged by how many laps you finish within the 24 hours. And looking at it, even guys who are in 7th, 8th, 9th place were 15 laps behind. In the grand scheme of things, these guys are doing 450, 350, 400 laps, whatever it may be. And they're only that little bit of amount behind. That shows you how competitive this class is going to be all year.
Yeah, and it looks like the kind of decide. So I guess what happened towards the end is the Lexus caught on fire, and that brought out the caution and
the second Lexus, because the first one had gone out early in the race.
Yeah, it was not a good day for Lexus, or night and day. But I think the key thing there was the Penske team. You can see right there at the top, the winners had in their previous stint had conserved more fuel, with the strategy being to jump, like you said, the Cadillac team, which was the favorite coming in with the jump on the
Yeah.
and they were able to do that, come out in front, and then open the gap up and hold that lead. So that was good way to strategize against a car that was probably faster. But
Yeah.
they kind of had a shot there and they took it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like we were saying in last week's show, that number 31 Whalen Engineering Cadillac, was the fastest car, overall. It was the one who sat on pole. The driver was one of the fastest drivers all weekend with Pipo Derani, and he was in the car at the very end. And same thing with Jack Aiken and Tom Blomqvist. You're talking about three superstars in this type of racing, and even in other series, being that Jack Aiken, drives Formula One cars, and so it's like that car was going to be tough to beat no matter what. They really had to come up with a great strategy, and that's what they did. They came up with a fantastic strategy. I mean, you even look at third place with the Wayne Taylor Racing Andretti car. That's the one that the 305 Canes Heat and Cats called out last
Yeah.
week. He was saying that car was going to be good, and that's your third place car. Jensen Button, Colton Herta, that's another strong car that we all knew was going to be up there at the end of this race, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about how rare, because you mentioned those cars had a lot of pace. The fourth place car, the Penske, less than a second behind. How normal is it for the field to be this, like the top four to be this bunched? I mean, everything within 15 seconds.
It's not normal. It's really not normal. I mean, these cars, you're talking about seconds a lap turns into minutes or hours by the end of the race.
Right.
If one car is faster than another car by a second each lap, they're doing 300 and something laps.
I think this one's like shorter laps. I think it's 791 is what it looks like here.
Yeah. So it's like they're doing all of these laps, and the fact of the matter, yeah, you're right, 791. I just saw it.
Yeah.
So they're doing 700, almost 800 laps, and you're a second a lap faster. That's 800 seconds. That's hours. That's a long time.
Yeah, it's like an hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is that these guys are running so close, so tight, strategy wise. All these cars are going in for issues during the race. They're all going in for brake changes. They're doing full brake jobs on these cars during the middle of the race. Like they're taking the whole brake assembly off and putting a whole brand new one on, during the middle of these races. So it's like, the things that take time and will even everything out at the end just worked out so perfectly in this race that it created such a fantastic finish, for us. I mean, realistically, these guys want to win by 15, 20 laps. They don't want to win by 2 seconds.
And that's a really good point. They're not used to this tight racing at the end.
Yeah.
It's a very different style of racing.
Exactly.
Than, like, obviously we cover Formula One. It's almost the complete opposite. So yeah, good job. Felipe Nasser was kind of in the lead car at the end. Did a good job maintaining the gap and holding off there. It's not really a skill they have to use a lot in this type of racing because it's endurance. It's not about a handful of laps and keeping a gap. So
exactly. But I mean, you put the fastest person in that car at the end and let him go, and that's what they did.
Yeah, and he did a great job there managing that gap because they were able to make the jump in the pits, but still, you think probably a faster car behind, but he maintained the lead there.
He really got a good jump on the restart too. It was like they were still under yellow out of the pits, and that jump on the restart really is what will push them ahead for the entire, or for that ending portion of the ending stint. So that's what helped out.
I'm trying to remember which one. I think it was in the GTP, the one that violated the hybrid recovery rules. Do you remember which car that was?
I don't remember which car it was, but it was in the GTP because they're the only ones that run hybrid.
Okay, all right. So I think that was, I believe that was the lead car at the time. I'm sure you can pull that up, but yeah, that's kind of another interesting wrinkle that the hybrid is controlled, and I think they were going too fast in the recharge phase, so they had to do a penalty, and that did also impact the standing.
Yeah. I mean, I'll see what I can find on it, but
right. Live Googling, always fun.
Always.
Well, I mean, this is you do a live show. This is what happens.
Exactly.
Let's see. It was. Oh, here. It was the number 6 Penske Porsche.
So it was
which
the one that I wanted to win.
Yeah, which if you look at it, I mean, ended up 15th. That probably did it. Because that penalty. That's why I knew it was something that impacted the race. So, yeah, no, that penalty. So the number 6 Penske Porsche had to serve a penalty for exceeding the mandated powertrain parameters.
Well, that sucks for me because
yeah.
That's the one with my guy in it. That's the one with the driver that I wanted to win, but still fourth place isn't bad.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you think about a 15-second gap and then to serve a penalty, that is brutal.
Yeah, they could have been up there.
Yeah, no, I think they probably would have been. Yeah. All right, so moving on, kind of the next class, the LMP2. Again, tighter than normal up at the top here.
Oh yeah.
But Air Motorsport with the win. Yep. And thoughts on the way this unfolded?
Well, the LMP cars are usually a lot closer when it comes to racing because they are a spec car. So, that series, like I was saying last week, they're all the same engine, they're all the same chassis, they're all the same everything. Everything about these cars are all exactly the same. They're kind of similar to a race that they had earlier in the weekend, the MX5 Cup or the Miata Cup, where all the cars are built to be exactly the same. And that was some of the best racing that you could find. Watch the highlights on that for all the viewers and for you, because the closeness of the racing in there is fantastic. You have 8 or 9 cars all packed up like a NASCAR track going around the entire thing. But either way, that's the same type of situation with the LMP cars. They are all spec cars. So as you see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars all on the lead lap. Again, it doesn't show here how close they were time-wise, but looking at the stuff that I have, they're all within just a few seconds of each other.
Right, which I guess makes sense given that they're kind of all the same, like similar. So how much can they manipulate those cars? Because I know this. I mean, you can see it right there in the column there. Same, like the stock parts are the same engine, same chassis, but what can they do to that?
So realistically, there's only one other car manufacturer in that series. There's Orica and Ligier. The only car that ran the Ligier, funny enough, was the first LMP2 car, I believe, that went off and went out of the race. So he obviously picked the wrong one for the weekend.
Yeah, these are unfortunately so
maybe
these
not
are
the
all
first
saying
one.
Orica. I mean, this should be the first car that went off.
Yeah.
Accident.
That was at the very beginning of the race.
Right.
That had first started to go up a little bit. I know he went off early because I remember that. But
yeah, I think this is an order finish, so I think it'll be one of these at the bottom. Yeah.
But either way, the only Ligier didn't finish the race, which kind of sucked because it was kind of cool to see a different manufacturer there. But either way, the things that they changed in there is mostly just like setup stuff. So you're talking about suspension setup. You're talking about I don't even think that they could change the engine maps. The engine have to be the same, for the regulations. But like the way the suspension is set up, the way that the weight is distributed, the way that the load on how the steering rack is set up and the rebound and with the suspension and stuff like that, all that stuff is the stuff that they can adjust because it's adjusting it for the feel of the drivers and you're trying to make sure that these drivers are comfortable out there and making sure that they're all are able to drive to their style. At least the team wise, it's something that you have to remember is that you have 4 drivers in each one of these cars. And so they're setting the car up once. They're not changing it as the race goes on. It's not like, I'm going to change it for this driver. I'm going to change it for this driver. And
that's true.
It has to be the same. So all these drivers have to drive similarly enough to where it works out. And those are the things that you can change to help yourself out. But it's more about feel and less about speed. It's more about driving or setting the car up to a style that you like instead of setting a car up for oh, it's going to be good on this thing or that thing, for speed or for time or whatever it may be.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point. That getting the driver lineup right so that they have similar styles and are able to all kind of drive the same cars is probably crucial there. Yeah, but as you said, five cars in the lead lap.
Yeah,
really within a few seconds of each other. Really exciting stuff, and that is kind of the mix you're getting here. You're getting the the raw these are not the fastest cars on the track, right? But they're spec cars, so you get the more competitiveness, and then the GTP you get like the raw speed. So you kind of get that mixture there, all within the same race. It's really you don't have to pick and choose. You can kind of watch them both at once.
Exactly.
All right, moving on to this is where it kind of started to fan out a little bit. The GTD Pro. There's a whole lap between the. I think the BMW car had a mechanical issue. I want to say, forget exactly what it was, and that was kind of the one that was competing with the. I'm not even going to pretend I can pronounce this, but I'll go for it anyway. Rizzi Competizione.
Rizzi Competizione. Good. That was good.
Close enough. And so then it was really a cakewalk there. Finished a lap up on everyone else. And yeah, that was unfortunate. The BMW car had issues because it was a tight race up until then.
Yeah, you had actually 3 cars in the GTD Pro that were right there with each other, with the Ferrari, and then the AO Racing, the Rexy, the car I called out last week, the number 77 AO Racing Porsche, right there with Michael Christensen and Sebastian Perala. They were right up there with them as well. That they were the second place car in GTD Pro, and I thought that Porsche was going to take it, but that Ferrari, man, they had that thing set up right at the very end, and it really pulled away. It says that he was up by a lap, but it was barely a lap. I mean, I think he had just passed him at the very end, or the timing issue had messed something up, because they were racing each other all the way until the very end of the race. So, that was something that I thought was going to be a little bit closer, and I was hoping was going to make for a little bit better of a race at the very end. But either way, it was the GTD class again. We're talking between the GTD and the GTD Pro, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe even more cars that were within one lap of each other. 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
9 cars within a lap of each other, or 2 laps of each other. That's close racing for endurance cars.
Yeah,
for endurance cars, that's close racing.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of fanning out here. Like even the last kind of finisher was only 18 laps off, or 20 laps off the winner. So you got that bunch.
Exactly. So in the GT classes, they ran really good. They were close, and to see, to look at it here, you're looking at GTD, obviously, or GTD Pro were obviously the winners in the GT class. They have the better drivers, they have the better racers, but third place was a GTD car. The third GT car was a car with amateurs in it. That Mercedes, the GT3 Evo, or with that Mercedes from Windward Racing, was flying towards the end of the race. And AF Corsa was trying to keep up with them. AF Corsa is a team from down here, by the way. They got based down here in Miami. I have a couple of guys that I know that have worked for the race team. So it's kind of a local thing that you can think about. They base out of down here, if I'm not mistaken. But you have those 4 cars right there, all within 2 laps of each other. Going down into that BMW M4 GT3 of Paul Miller Racing. The top 5 within, like I said, 3 laps of each other, really. But 2 of them are GTD cars, which is fantastic. Right. It's fantastic to see when customer cars and cars with amateurs in it are up there competing with the big boys.
Yeah, and it looks like it's. So the car you mentioned, the AF Corsa, is driving the same car as, I'm not going to go for it again, the winners of the GT Pro.
Competizione.
Of the GT Pro, but I guess the distinction is that the AF Corsa has amateur drivers.
Yes.
Yeah, and so to keep it that close,
Yeah, and when
Yeah,
when we talk about amateur drivers, we're not talking about like a me and you jumping in one of these
yeah.
cars.
No,
Like
no.
these
These
guys are
are
still race car drivers. These guys are professional drivers, but they don't have the license and qualifications
right.
that make them what's considered a pro driver in this series. So
Yeah, yeah. You have to qualify and get various licenses to be a
exactly,
pro driver. So yeah, they're in the GTD versus the pro. But yeah, some of those guys are certainly more talented than the professionals. There's
yeah,
don't have the licenses to prove it.
exactly.
All right, so that kind of summarizes, the results across um the four classes here. What stood out to you though overall about the race? Like, what were kind of the points you wanna touch on here?
I mean, realistically, I mean, we were touching on it earlier. It was a great race overall. There was some accidents that kind of slowed it down, especially at night. The nighttime racing was great. I had it on at the restaurant the entire time. I
Nice.
literally told my other managers at the restaurant that I work at. I said, "This TV right here is mine. It is going to stay on the race as long as the race is on TV. It's going to stay on the race, and it's going to be there the entire night." And they were like, "No problem." They were cool with it. So
Nice.
I was popping in, watching the entire race the entire night, going into the morning, and it was just good, solid racing the entire time. The track was good. There wasn't many issues, or there wasn't a lot of issues going on with the weather. It was cool enough to where the racing was good. It was hot enough to where the tires were getting warmed up during the day. So overall, it was just a good, solid, competitive race, one of the better 24 hours of Daytona that I've seen in a long time. There's not a dominant car throughout the entire field, throughout the entire, all the classes. And that's what you want to see. That's what makes it exciting for fans. It was the most attended 24 hours of Daytona in the history of the race. There was more people there than have ever been before. It just shows the pulling power of this series, and that it's going to start, getting a little bit more exciting for people down here, for people in general who love this type of racing. You're going to see a big boom of fans in this type of racing, especially with Formula One becoming as big as it is now, in the United States. Something we're trying to help push out, with our show here. This type of racing goes right along with it. That's why you see so many drivers flip flop between the two series. You see Formula One drivers, you know, go ahead and switch between the two different series, and drive for either one whenever they have a chance. But it was just that it was a great race. It was a fantastic showing for the series, for the type of racing, for endurance racing in general. And I hope it's brought in more fans. I hope that it's started to do like what I said, bring in more people, because it is such a fun, it's a fun weekend, if you could say it like that. It's a fun way to spend a weekend. You look at somebody that you like in the beginning, and you check in the next day, you check in every couple hours. You don't have to sit there and watch the whole thing and be afraid you're going to miss something. You just check in, and you see where your guys at, and you go from there.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's one that you can kind of a little bit casually watch too. Couple more questions as we kind of sort of wrap up here. So first of all, pulling up the track, how how does this track, because it's majority on the oval,
Uh-huh.
how does this compare to a normal kind of endurance racing track?
So realistically, there's not a normal endurance racing track. Like if you think about it, one thing that you can say makes a track a good endurance racing track, realistically, is the ease of the track. An easy track is the best track for endurance racing, because you're not overstressing the car the entire time. If you look at a picture of the Circuit de la Sarthe, where they do Le Mans, that track as well is not that difficult of a track. It's a track that there are some technical spots, there are some spots that are a little bit more difficult than let's say here, but or let's say Daytona, I should say. But the whole point about it is that there's a good mix of corners that make it to where the racing is still going to be good, but that overall it's just a solid track that you can get a lot of laps done and a lot of time done in. Again, going back to the next big race right now is going to be Sebring. Sebring is the 12-hour race coming up in the middle of March. That race is only 12 hours because I don't think you could do 24 hours on that track. That track is a much more technical track. It's very bumpy, it's very small, it's very it's very narrow. The track is very narrow. So it's a lot more difficult to do a long race on a track like that than it is to do it on these big tracks like these big ovals or like Circuit de la Sarthe, like I said, in France for the 24 hours in Le Mans, that are more wide open, that are more, just gigantic tracks. See, there goes Sebring right there. It's a lot more technical. If you look at it, there's, the couple straights. So one interesting thing is this track is made off of an old airport. So a lot of the layouts, if you look at it, the two long straights on the bottom between 16 and 17 and between 17 and 1, those were old airport runways. So that's why you see that at the bottom there. Then from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. So basically from 1 to 7 is one of the most technical parts in the entire track. That turn 1, you're coming into it at about 175 miles per hour in these GTP cars, and you're going flat out around that first corner. And then you got to slow down by turn 3, which comes up super quick. But overall, this is a much more technical, much smaller track in general, being that it's that it's just tighter. So that's why you can't really do that full 24 hours at a track like that. But like at Le Mans, at the Circuit de la Sarthe, they're bigger, they're more open, they're more set up for that type of endurance type of racing. Again, that's for it to me, it's the only way to describe it is it's an easier track. It's not as demanding. It's not like a Barcelona. It's not like you're taking a car to Monza.
Right.
Even Monza, funny enough, has endurance races, but
yeah, because Monza is a lot of straights and less technical. No, good point on the length. This one's 3.6 miles. Le Mans is over 8 miles per lap, so you can kind of see that difference. And like you said, you can't do 24 hours on these short, twisty. It's too much focusing for that amount of time and the level they have
too much stress.
Yep. Okay, so you mentioned Sebring is next. Kind of how does the season on this? So this was kind of the kickoff, right? This was so how does the season unfold from here? In terms of the series, some of these, because the reason I'm asking is some of these drivers are in other series. They're kind of at the 24 Hours of Daytona because it is the only kind of race going right now, and so a lot of them that are IndyCar drivers are able to come race this. But so obviously everyone will not go to all of the races, but I guess what's next is Sebring's next, I believe you mentioned, right?
So Sebring's next. It comes up March 13th through the 16th. It's a 12-hour race, and then you have some more of the regulars races, which are not the big long endurance races. They're still timed races, if I'm not mistaken. They're not lapped races, so it's not like in Formula One where it's a certain amount of laps. I think that there's still timed races, but it's only a couple-hour race. You got Long Beach, you got Monterey, which is at Laguna Seca, which is one of the best tracks in all of America. And then they go to the Detroit Grand Prix in May as well. And then you have another one of the big races. You have the Watkins Glen 6 hours, which is going to be big. Another endurance race.
6 hours though.
Yeah.
And I know I'm very familiar with Watkins Glen, and after your previous explanation, I kind of know why. That downhill will get you just by itself.
Oh yeah.
So that's okay. So I guess go ahead.
And then you also have different races throughout the Michelin GT Challenge at VIR, which there's a couple of these races that are only LMP cars or only GT cars, or I think there's one or two that are only going to be the GTP cars. So you have different things like that. They race at Indianapolis in September, and then the big race to finish the year off is in October. It's the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta, which is another one of the big races. But this is like the big American besides for the Triple Crown in endurance racing is Le Mans, is Daytona, and is Sebring. Those are the big three.
Okay.
If you win those three in the same year, you've done the impossible. That was what Ken Miles was trying to do back in the '60s. That's what everybody tries to do, because those are the big three. But in America, the Petit Le Mans is one of the greatest races that they have. It's again, if I'm not mistaken, another 24 hours. I don't remember if it's 12 or 24 hours, but either way, it's a fantastic race, and there's always great racing there at Road Atlantic, because it's just such a fantastic track. Oh wait, you're muted.
Yeah, I said that out loud as if you could hear it. Yeah, I'm looking right now to see, and I do believe it says it's so Petit Le Mans is a 10-hour. It looks like
Oh, okay.
it is a 10-hour race. So yeah, but like you said, and you can tell again now that you've kind of given the guide here. Yeah, you can see the tricky end. Pat, I can show this. It is a very technical track, so
Yeah,
makes sense that they are consistent with that. In terms of it's the more difficult the track, the less time you can run on it.
oh yeah.
And yeah, I can pull this up real quick. Go.
Yeah, Road Atlanta is just such a fantastic track. It's a track that a lot of the racers love driving on. Um, so the S is right in there. It is a famous part of the track that a lot of people, will, if you see it and racing, you see that, and it's something that's incredible. There's some of the best racing happens there. It's kind of like in what's it called, the track that all the teams are around in Formula One in England.
Oh, Silverstone.
Silverstone. It's kind of like Silverstone, where they have that portion right after the old start finish line that has the same type of S's like that. So it's
Yeah,
a fantastic track.
you just visualize the G's that you're pulling, going left, right, left, right, left. Because
Exactly.
this will be at high speed, because it's not a so it's
It'll
just
be almost flat out.
right, and that's gonna take its toll on the drivers. Hence the shorter shorter duration. 10 hours still a lot, but not the 24 we saw last weekend.
Exactly.
All right, Evan. Anything else before we kind of wrap up here on this?
I guess just we could talk a couple little things if you want about the big kind of news that's been coming out in Formula One, especially the stuff that came out today about Andretti being completely denied from entrance for the 2026 season. I think that's kind of big in this context even as well, because Andretti is a big part of sports car racing. A lot of these drivers, there's a couple of these drivers that we could even have imagined had been in that Andretti Formula One team, but the Liberty Media has definitively said no, not until at least 2028 now, which kind of sucks. It would have been nice to see a Cadillac, another American team with GM sponsorship and whatever they may have bring that Andretti team right back into, or that Andretti name right back into this into the sport that we all love, and that's got us all pretty much here together right now.
Yeah, and it does feel like there's a little bit of these are financial decisions, and they're weighing whether they can expand the amount of revenue enough that slicing it an extra way will make it worth it. And I guess at this point they conclude that isn't the case. Of course, they talked about the competitive. There's a bunch of the explanations were nonsense.
Yeah,
With talking about the the competitiveness of the car. Any team that starting out is not going to be competitive.
yeah,
So the idea that like, oh, they're not going to be competitive, of course they're not. And they had GM's backing, like you said, so there's a lot of money invested. So
I
yeah,
mean
I
the
guess they
effort.
can try. They can try again. They can try again in for 2028. I believe is the next thing.
I mean, the thing that it kind of sucks because it's like the Athletic came out with a fantastic article just yesterday about how far that they've come along. They showed them in the wind tunnel, that the old wind tunnel that McLaren just stopped using because they just made their wind tunnel in England. But you can see that they have a car that looks like it's 90% there. You can see that they have, the everything set up. They got people coming in from different teams in Formula One. These guys are ready to go. I mean, uh, to me, Andretti just needs to go up to Gene Haas, or Michael needs to go up to Gene Haas and say, just please give me this team. Like, you don't care about it, you don't do anything about it, and just rebrand the team, from Haas to Andretti F1, because Gene Haas just seems like he's throwing in the towel. I mean, you get rid of Gunther Steiner, who's literally the face of your team, which is sad because you have drivers that should be the face of your team, but your team principal is the face of your team, and you get rid of him. Like, what are you thinking, man? Like, it just seems like he's throwing in the towel, and Jordan needs to sweep in and take that spot and show him how it's done, pretty much,
Yeah, and I think the hypocrisy on that would be, of course, if Andretti takes Haas's spot, they'll be okay with it. All of a sudden, the competitiveness thing doesn't matter anymore, right?
Yeah, of course.
And Haas is not competitive right now, and the amount of money and resources that Andretti was putting in and continues to put into, because they've not shuttered the program. They haven't really commented on what they're going to do going forward, but yeah, this was pretty clearly a more of a gatekeeping move than any kind of rational decision. And the whole thing around, well, in 2028 when they have the Cadillac Works engine, then we'll look at it. I mean, how many cars are buying teams are buying engines right now? Like, why is this any different, right? It's only the only ones making their engine is Ferrari, it's Mercedes, and that's Honda, badges, whatever, right? And
I mean, the other thing about it is that it would give Alpine a team that would be able to buy from them, because that was the plan, was that they were going to be a customer team for Alpine. Yeah. And they would give Alpine another team that would use their engine, which would be good for Alpine. I mean, it's like,
no, it's totally, no, it's just, it's nonsense reasoning. They don't want Andretti in there. I think part of it is, they're worried about overall losing part of their share if the revenue brought in does not equal, cutting it extra. Yeah. And they're also worried, you get Andretti, who's essentially won everything, and you get a major manufacturer in there. The teams at the top don't want to compete with that.
No, they want to compete with each other.
Yeah, and so that's also got to be a part of the thinking here. Yeah, it's disappointing. Something I know we were all excited about, but yeah, I mean, there's no recourse if everyone's wondering, like, can they appeal, or there's nothing. They're done.
Yeah,
done until 2028, which is nuts, because they'd already been approved by the FIA and all that, but
yeah.
It didn't count for anything. So
nope. Liberty Media doesn't care about all that.
Yeah, no, it's Liberty Media is just a shell corporation for the teams. So they're doing what they do.
But other than that, like I said, I'm excited about the next big race. All the cars are coming out, all the different things. Hopefully you'll be seeing some tweets from our accounts here with all the new cars that are being announced in the next few weeks for Formula One, and then testing and going
that
into
season. They're starting to leak little images and teasing out the cars. Yeah, we're going to see them soon.
And McLaren already showed their car. They're like, "Hey, we're here. There you go. Yeah. See us. We're McLaren. We're ready." And you see a lot of pundits talking good about McLaren this year, saying that
let's hope they come out. Let's hope they start the season better than they did last year. With the having to pit every lap to top off the engine fluid, probably not a winning strategy.
All right, stop making fun of my team.
It's my team too, man. It's my team too.
No, your team is whatever team has George Russell on it.
Oh, for sure, definitely. I mean, I gotta follow that guy around. Make sure he gets all the praise he deserves.
Of course.
Yes, I mean, in terms of greatest drivers ever, it's George Russell 1, Senna 2. You can't argue with that.
Michael Schumacher right underneath.
Yeah, yeah. No, Schumacher's way much more personal.
Oh God!
Come on. All right, man. Well, again, this is great. This is a great little interlude in the middle of kind of the doldrums of racing, as cars don't run too well in the winter. So
No.
there's not a lot of racing going on this time of year. But it's a
Right.
good kind of catch up. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, we will be back as the Formula One season kicks off, and Evan, myself, and Chad Santana, our other co-host, we'll have you covered for F1. Evan, thanks for joining me over here, and yeah, we'll be on. Before you know it, it's going to be go time.
Sounds good to me.